I surrender the mind that's attached to a self. I release all illusions that I have held, aware of the emptiness as ignorance melts. I surrender it all. I surrender all. I surrender all. Shedding some the many layers. I surrender all. I surrender all dissatisfaction. I surrender such thoughts, speech, and action. I surrender all habitual reactions. I surrender it all. May the Bodhi that has not yet arisen arise, arise and grow. And may that which has arisen never diminish, but grow evermore and more. May I inhabit the mind stream of the holy ones. May I inhabit the mind stream of the holy ones. All conditioned phenomena are like a dream, like a dream. A bubble, a shadow, a flash of lightning. I surrender all my fixed mental notions, the grasping and clinging brought on by emotions, clearing out all the pollution of the three poisons. I surrender it all. I surrender all. I surrender all. Shedding so the many layers. I surrender all. May the Bodhi that has not yet arisen arise, arise and grow. And may that which has arisen never diminish, but grow evermore and more. May I inhabit the mind stream of the holy ones. May I inhabit the mind stream of the holy ones.
So it's not our final version, but it'll be coming out soon. So thank you all so much for the gathering last night. It was very, very touching, very meaningful to me. One thing that I realized, though, is how much it takes, how much effort it takes to be a human being. It takes a lot of effort. So when I woke up this morning, like, oh goodness, I said, ain't nobody gonna be here. Cause I know we're all so tired, even those of us that just showed up and ate, because it really takes a lot of energy for us to function on on a mundane level. And if we realized it, we'd give it up quicker. But because we're acclimated to it, then we think that it is, such a wonderful thing. It's so marvelous and that we're having so much fun. That's why the hermits who live in the mountains, they easily live 110, 120, 130, 180 years because they develop a relationship with a fine material being that uh, make it possible to enter into some refined states as opposed to these heavy, dense, gross physical bodies. That's why when we talk about the light body or rainbow body, it is the grossness that has been abandoned. So even our physical body has a body, is what I'm saying uh, to you. Ask big questions, get big answers. Ask little questions, get little answers. That's why I like asking questions. That's why I like um, not knowing so that I won't be hindered by the known. I won't be hindered by what I know. Even when I think I know something, I still ask questions because it opens me up to uh, a deeper, more comprehensive, expanded um, knowing that I can piece together just using the intellect of the mind, the ordinary mind consciousness. So in the beginning of imparting, Buddha Master gives us certain instructions. He says, okay, so what I want you to know is that I am going to be inculcating your mind. And so that requires a lot of repetition. So I want you to get bored with the repetition, and I don't want you to get dissatisfied. Just know upfront, it's going to be a lot of repetition, repeating it again and again. And sometimes I'll say it in this way because I want you to get this shading. Sometimes I'll say it in a different way so that you can develop an attitude that's more conducive to entering into the depth of it. Sometimes I'll say it in another, you pick up the cautions that you need to have as you employ these. Sometimes I'll say it in yet another way so that you won't get weary in your efforting, that it'll give you some confidence and hope that you are getting it, that you are understanding. Sometimes I'll say it in another way to give you the indicators to look for. And sometimes I'll say it in another way so that you don't get so lifted up in the conceit. I know that you miss the biggest or the greatest aspects of it. So he says, I give it to you in all these different ways so that you'll be complete, lacking in no good thing, lacking in nothing. And he says that at the beginning of the book, and he says it, like maybe 10 pages later. And then he says it because he can tell when when a weariness sets in. It's like I heard it before, or like I got that, I understand. Um, And the only reason that can set in is because we have not sufficiently got the full picture of it. And so we just keep pinging back, like where we got it last time, what we got last time. And we just keep hitting refresh, you know? But that level of refresh is not the thirst quenching kind of refreshment. There is a refreshment that takes us beyond our thirst. I guess I could say it like that. So last night before I went to bed, I was reading the Bible, and I'm always reading it because I have my direct experience of that engagement, that relationship, the system that came up around. That's very definite ideas of what things mean and what is what, you know, and based not just on what I read, but reading between the lines. But last night in particular, my eyes fell on something. And as I read it, I wept because I knew it was true. I've seen it manifest in my life directly. That's why I can have such confidence. If you don't, then it's still up for grabs whether something is real or not. But when you've had a direct experience, you know absolutely that it is. And I listened to what Jesus said. He said, "You are my witnesses." And they just went around and they told what they witnessed. And then I understood why sometimes we need to witness something, because that the actual witness, bearing witness, allows the kind of assurance to arise in the hearts of people that they can expand. And so, you know, we had a group, there is a group called Jehovah's Witnesses, and they, you know, really divided between them and Christians in a certain way. I would call it a false divide, but nevertheless, you know, a kind of separation. But I listened to what Jesus said, and Jesus said, "You will be my witnesses. Just tell what you have seen and what you have heard." And that's how it started. They were just telling what they had seen and what they had heard. But there was something else that made people believe, because as they begin to remember what they had seen and what they had heard, it caused a certain reaction in them. Something took hold, because it wasn't that they were building other people's faith or confidence. They were actually reinforcing and building their own. So I could tell you all day about what I witnessed, and it won't have an effect on you if it doesn't have an effect on me. And as I develop in my own capacities and attainment, that's what really brings the confidence to the hearers. I'm so tired of just giving Dharma talks. Not because I'm tired of people coming to listen to them, but as I listen to and I witness masters, and I had the good fortune to encounter several. I mean, like all you need to counter is one to know that there is something else, some other states that we can attain. But to have encountered three, and now my fourth one in this life, I know that it wasn't just the words that they spoke, but it was the state of attainment that they could walk in. That was really the shifting factor. They all talk good words. Sometimes I do too, but it is not the words, but it was moving forth in the demonstration of the power of those words. And as I laid in bed last night, thinking about how kind everybody in the Sangha is. I can remember when our Sangha wasn't kind. I didn't even think about others. I mean, I'm going to tell you, we have, I guess everybody who's part of a Sangha thinks they have the most wonderful Sangha. So, okay, that's also a given. But I'm talking about when you can find, I would always say if the scriptures could find me, I'm not lost. Whether it finds me in a good space or whether it finds me like in a bad space, it's still, if I can find myself there, then I know there's hope. I'm not lost. But I was thinking about what they did and how they grew and how they developed, and I never really thought about these kinds of things before. I was happy just to be able to share the Dharma. I was happy just to be able to cut some flowers and offer you flowers, But the great wonder of a garden is the gardener and the capacity of the gardener to nourish, to nurture, to protect, to look out for, to prune, to fertilize, to water. And then I thought about my own life and how not only am I not a master gardener, for most of my life, I didn't even like gardening. So it's like being a fraud. You have on a gardening outfit, but don't even like gardening. It's just what you do. And you do it because, whatever part of it, because you like doing it. And that happens to be your field. So you do whatever you want to do with your field. But without the proper regard and tending to the field. Because you have to care more about the field and what is growing there than you even care about yourself. And when I put myself up against those that I admire, I mean, we all admire somebody, but I know who I admire. And I put myself up against them, woefully lacking. And that is what Buddha Master is telling us. Don't let your meatballs get lost in the sauce. It wasn't so much of what they said, although what they said was the principal thing, but to be able to speak it with the authority that is born of accomplishment, a true accomplishment. And so it said that the same way that they observed their master, they were able to move upon the people in the same way. They gave words of power with signs following. And I said, I ain't got no signs. So however I'm thinking of what I offer, it's insufficient, because if the signs were there, then the people could grasp the fullness of it, and they would enter into it. So sometimes from right where we sit, we think, well, better to give something than to give nothing. Share what you do know. Offer what you can give. And I say that's a very good thing on some level. But it's insufficient for the gate that I stand before. And maybe for the gate that some of you stand before now. That means it's going to require something. And we're hearing the relax, just be natural. First he says, just be ordinary. Then he says that ordinary is not our natural state. Then he says, just be natural. So then we got ordinary and we got natural. I'm so confused. And that's all right, because he's shaking it up a little bit. It's like having that snow globe, like you just shake it up and then you just watch it all settle. And then the clarity is there to see fully what's in the globe. But it seems like when you're looking at the globe, it's not so much until you shake it up. And then the snow is all over the place. And then the snow starts to settle. And it seems like the clarity is glaring then. But it took the shaking up to allow some kind of deeper, more comprehensive kind of seeing. I mean, suddenly everything that's in that little globe is so striking, but it was because of the shakeup that wiped away our, we get into habitual ways of knowing, habitual tendencies, habitual sayings. We get into a kind of dullness that is so subtle, it creeps up on us and we don't even recognize. We don't recognize it. And so we get a reminder here and there. Or sometimes we're wound up so tight, it's like if we just turn that one more click, that spring's gonna break, you know. So he said, go take a vacation, you know, go relax, you know, go tiptoe through the tulips, go have a party, go, you know, shake it up. Because I'm getting ready to hit you with something, and you gotta be ready to hear it. And if you're already tired or wound up, bound tight, you're not going to hear it right. It's going to be harder for me to give it to you than me. I'm not talking about me now. I'm talking about the master. It's going to be harder. I'm going to make my work too hard. So I'll catch you when you relax. I don't like to drop a bomb on you. And so that's his method. And I can see how it accelerates our capacity to understand things. And I see how it's like red dye number 5. You can't even get it out. You know, it just ruins what you were planning. And suddenly we come to know some of the difference between our mundane ways of knowing things. And we touch a little bit of our intrinsic nature. So everything that we're learning is something that is actually awakening in us. And if it's awakening in us, that means it's already where?
There.
In us. It appears to be knowledge we're gaining from the outside, but actually we are awakening to our natural state. And if we can get this, it will allow us to have just the right, just the correct, meaning just the balanced view of this path, of this walk. It's neither outside nor inside because it appears to come from outside, but we're awakening to what's inside. So we can say it's neither outside nor it's inside. We can also say it is outside and it is inside. And we can start to kind of get the notion or the idea of a unified field. And that we are that field. I am that field, and you are that field. When we really get this, we start to understand the concept of no giver, no receiver, and no gift. That's why, and I'm not saying that that's what we should do at all, but that's why they were so moved as these principles were expounded to them that were verified or confirmed by signs following, like what the disciples were able to do, they said, what we saw our master do, that's what we do. And the master, Jesus said, what I saw my Father do, that's what I do. And it said, and they held everything in common. And they bought what they had to the forming outside union that was the outpicturing of the inside union. And so my mind was just on that last night. And I was saying, I don't even deserve one meal. Because I know within myself, I have not given my all. I have not given my full dedication. I have not, and all that I'm not saying that I didn't give. I'm not saying that I didn't give a lot. What I am saying is I know how much I have given, and I know how much I give. And I don't give you my all. That's what I'm saying. And I'm making a pledge and a dedication today to at least conjure up the great wish to give it. Don't pay any attention. This is humanness, of which I have a lot. Don't pay any attention to that. Don't be moved by that. That's just like her problem. She gotta handle her own business. Just think of it this way. That's how we get stronger. You know, a lot of times we just get moved by things, maybe because we know our own frailties. You know, so like I want to be at the place where if you have a frailty, you know, first I'm not at the place that I can fully identify with. That's why I can't give my all, right? Because a bodhisattva can know it all together. So we have to get to that stage. But then after you get there, what comes with that is a certain kind of fearlessness and an absolute clarity that you're not moved by that at all. Cry to your heart's content doesn't move me at all, you know. And that's another level. Now, if you get to that level before you got to the level where you were completely touched by the feelings of infirmities of others, then you got it turned around and it becomes incorrect. We got a lot of that going on in the world today. Yeah. So sometimes it's things in a certain order, you know, for the dominoes to fall right. And these are all the things that wisdom teaches us. But then they told of the act. So there was Jesus' story told from different ways, you know, from as a lineage holder coming down through 40 generations from his mother's side, because they take, you know, their ancestry down the mother's side, you know, and so there was whoever Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John was, or whatever compilations of editors or witnesses who were telling those stories. And then Jesus' story is finished in the first 4 books. And I think there are 33 in the New Testament, and the rest is in the Old Testament. Don't forget, the number's not important, but the first 4 tell Jesus' story, and then he's gone. Then comes the Acts. of the apostles, the acts of his disciples. And I was reading about how they started off as just a little ragtag bunch, you know. They were sitting around all sad and moping, not just because he died, but because they denied him in front of others. You know, well, some did, you know. Some, and if they didn't deny him, they certainly didn't defend him. There was only one that when the soldiers came for him, uh, and and one came forward and sliced off the ear of the soldier, right? And then, you know, he said, "Don't do that. Just put that ear back on." He said, like, and he told the story. He said, I went freely because I understood that this was my destiny. This was the purpose for which I came. That was the purpose, the reason for the appearance of the Nirmanakaya was to share something. And when that was finished, it was finished. And another time he said, you know, I didn't have to go. I could have called down 10,000 angels. But I suffered it to be so. I allowed it because I had not a short range goal. I didn't have a goal to come and be a human being and have all the things us human beings, you know, get lost in, enjoy, we call it, all the things that we enjoy. He said, I understood the purpose for which he didn't say that someone prepared a body. He prepared himself a body and he came into this world. You see, that's why I understand some things because I already have spent 35 years pondering these things, maybe from a different perspective, maybe a different person, a different personage, a different Nirmanakaya, you know, and having a direct encounter, I understand the complexity of trying to imagine something that you haven't seen, that you have not experienced. So it takes a lot of putting things into place to be able to see something. It takes a lot of convincing, but the masters show us what convinces. Jim and I were talking earlier this week, and we were talking about Thomas, and you know, like Mary had seen Mary Magdalene, I think, had seen, you know, she saw this guy at the tomb, and she thought he was the gardener. And she said, you know, like, my master's gone, where have you taken his body? I came to do whatever kind of ceremony they were going to do on the third day, anointing the body, and he wasn't there. And she talking to Jesus, but she couldn't recognize him in that form. And then he called her name and said, Mary. And when he spoke her name, she saw it was not the gardener. She said, my Lord and my master. And he said, all he said was, go and tell your brethren. And it's so curious to me how women just get no respect. But you know, like If you know your own story, you don't need any you don't need, it's an unnecessary diversion into nonsense, you know? You don't need any. So he says, go tell your brother what you've seen. That's it. He didn't give it a long Dharma talk. He didn't give it he said, just go tell your brother what you see. And she ran and told him. And Thomas wasn't there. So later they got a hold of Thomas and they told Thomas said, unless I put my finger in the holes in the palms of his hands and his feet, I won't believe it. And so a little while later, Jesus appears to Thomas. So Thomas, have a go at. He said, yeah, go ahead. It didn't say that Thomas did. It just said, and then Thomas said, my Lord. That's the presence. So where I'm going with this is for us to begin to develop an understanding of what signs following means and what allows the manifestation of these truths. It's not like desiring powers. So when he talks, he's always cautioning about don't desire powers. It's just that little way that things have to be understood, that one doesn't lean too far on one side of the tightrope and fall off and fall to the ground. But if you understand the place of them in the maturing of bodhisattvas, in the maturing of the unified field, then you understand their place of no place. That the field manifests according to the state. In other words, no way not to function in certain ways. Not trying to function in certain ways, but no way not to function in certain ways. Because the thought becomes the thing. And if we can understand it from that side, and to understand it from that side requires being all in. So now I'm evaluating what all in means to me today, right now. All in means different things to us at different times. But I'm doing a complete inventory and overhaul, a shakeup of what all in means to me. It may not be anything that you see different on the outside. In the beginning, in the beginning. But I sure hope that as I approach the end, it will be there. Otherwise, I have missed the mark. Not because I don't think it was made available to me, because I do. I mean, we have counterfeit going on and don't even have the real. And you can see what happens in the world when the counterfeit becomes the real. We're seeing it in our country right now. And how it's not the real up against the counterfeit. But the Buddha said, when the real is lost, then the counterfeit appears. He said, when the true Dharma is lost, the counterfeit will appear. And I can look at the state of things and see how they have eroded, slidden, been sidetracked, double speak, like all of these things. There's no way this present condition can exist. Didn't happen overnight. Didn't start with one person. But this is the collective consciousness, the slacking, the laxness, the not holding to firm principles of virtue. In Chinese, they say that when virtue is lost, then we have morality. So by the time we get to morality, we've already lost. Because virtue relies upon prajna, but morality relies upon the human consciousness. And that relies upon the field of human consciousness. Whatever seeds of avidya, of ignorance, are planted there. You see, so that helps me to understand the state that we're in. And how, just what one does over here is not isolated to the recompense, but it's like the 100 monkey syndrome, at some point, because of the field of human consciousness, it starts popping up like popcorn. You get little mini dictators cropping up everywhere. And I ask you, with our puniness of attainment, how much difference do you think we're going to make? Might as well drink and be merry, for tomorrow we die. But I believe that the last line of the story is not yet written. And I believe that it's very much like having a leak on a pitched roof where the water is coming in. It's not necessarily where the repair needs to be made. on the inside. But when you have a skilled roofer, he knows how to direct and effect and affect the repair. So we're going to, where are we going? California. And my whole purpose in going has shifted. And I'm going to be working while I'm there. And I hope you all are working here while we're gone. So we won't have Tuesday and Friday, but we will have Wednesday and Sunday Dharma. And you know, when you're learning something, a good teacher knows just how to encourage you. A good teacher knows when they need to press you to do a little bit more, and when they need to give some reward to encourage you. And all I'm thinking right now, because I can't tell you what some things are going to look like, is that we're shifting into another gear and some things then will change. So I'm just saying, get ready. You know, sometimes we wish for things, but we just want them, wish for them. We don't think we're gonna really get it, you know. We just, oh, wouldn't it be nice if blah, blah. But we don't really think that we're gonna get it. That's the first place that I would like to ask you to shift. That the very things that we are opening ourselves up to, Reba is always saying, wouldn't it be nice? It would be nice. No, I really want it. I really do. She says, I really do want it, but we're not gonna get it.
No, I'm not. I think you.
I'm not. Okay. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. Resetting our aspiration. Maybe you don't get it like I do, you know, but each one of us is different. We just need to get each one of us what we need to get. So whatever we see that we like, that we think it would be nice. I mean, I know what I want to get out of this at this point. I want to the fullest degree possible to create an atmosphere where there are no limits, external obstructions to people getting what they want to get. If you don't want to get something, that's fine. I don't want to unduly apply pressure for something somebody doesn't want. But if they really want it, then I want to be able to have the capacity to reach my mark that doesn't hinder that, but that supports and reinforces that. So I'm asking for direction on what I need to do, how I need to prepare this mind and body to be able to do that. I don't want to say anymore that I am trying my best unless I really am. And then I will be at ease with what I offer, because I'm my own conscience, you know, won't be offended. So I know when I'm good, know when I'm not good, know when I'm really putting forth the effort, know when I'm not, and just be honest with myself about it. See, all this is inner work that we're doing. I will not be afraid. Or maybe you should not be afraid, to be honest with that. Part of my problem is I'm not scared enough. So I need to get a little bit more on the afraid side. When you have a parent that chastises you and they love you, that's different than having a parent to beat you. You know the difference. We used to breed dogs, and whenever we were selling them off, what the shopkeepers who would come and buy, papered dogs, they would, pedigree, they would always look to see how the dog's relationship was, with the breeder, to see if he comes when the breeder calls and things like that. And they know if they've been loved by the breeder, cared for, feel safe with the breeder. And we had doves, and doves can be, when they're real little, they're just a wild bunch, especially the red ones. They just like all the time, they're high strung, the red ones are high strung. And so I just want to know myself more, is what I'm saying. This is a little request, but it's a big one that I'm making today, to ask, will you take this next step with me? Because I think that I got something in what I read last night. I got the example of something. And we live in a world today with the counterfeit Dharma. There's more talk about Dharma than there ever has been. but there's never any talk about attainment, or hardly any. Don't even believe there's any other than good talk. But I believe that there is. I believe the good talk can be realized, and that we can develop and enter into those states of attainment that correspond with the realization. You have to enter the realization for the demonstration of the states. It doesn't mean then that we walk around with a golden lollipop, or we have a little magical pop goes the weasel, and we're making, like affirmations and just blurbing out stuff. But really being of a certain caliber of mind state that speaks of its own truth in our reality. And that goes way beyond mere words. Having a vision, that means being able to see, not to make up something in the future. It means being able to see. And to be able to have some impact in the world, this world, because I'm of this world. So if I'm going to help anywhere, it's going to be here. Not just for human beings, but we have all kinds of beings in this world. Some of them need restraining. Some of them need to be loosed. Some of us need restraining. Speaking of human beings, and some of us need to be loosed. Some conditions in some lives are a hindrance to the Dharma and the well-being, beyond the capacity of those who are caught in it to be effective, to be a friend with a certain authority in the high places can make all the difference in the world. You know how somebody has a friend, in a high place, happen to be your friend too? He says, I'll make a call for you. Next thing you know, it's done. Forget about all that was required. Forget about all the paperwork. Forget about all the requirements. I'll make a phone call. That was the great thing about pledging AKA. You're going to have somebody you could call in the future. I didn't even try any other sorority. When I didn't make it into AKA, forget about it then. AKA wasn't just a sorority. It was a lifetime assurance that there was somebody you could call. And they could make a phone call on your behalf. They could open a door. I mean, we understand this in just ordinary ways. We should also understand that in our spiritual life. So that was the talk that I was supposed to give today, and where that lands on you. But I know that I'm beyond encouraged today that many of us have a true spiritual aspiration, and we will not leave this incarnation without attaining it. So sometimes we talk about the difference in different methods, trade systems, you know, particularly Dzogchen and Mahamudra. And one difference is attaining the rainbow body after death, where the Mahamudra is a system, a method of training. The difference is attaining in this very life. After death is not guaranteed. That's it. But after death is not guaranteed, but attaining in this very life. That was what I asked for. From the time that I was just a little child, that's what I asked for. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sister. I once was young, and now I'm old. But as the scripture says, but I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed begging for bread. Who thought that I could realize my Christian aspiration without the label? But there's some place that we have to go that's beyond the labels. Somebody offered.
May the merit attained in this gathering go to the benefit of all living beings. And we know that there is merit in this gathering because we feel its power. We make the heartfelt commitment to go all in, to surrender all in boundless generosity. But that's the source of our power. And we dedicate that power to other living people.